episode number 3. And I hope you are excited about this episode. I certainly am, because I get to do what I really love doing, which is make music. And supposing that you learn anything from this, or you are inspired by this, you get to do something that you enjoy as well. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into our session. I'm just going to start the 25-minute Pomodoro timer, just to help ensure that we're working in, how can I say, sections of time that A, help me keep focused, and B, make sure that this isn't some 6-hour video for you guys to watch. Anyway, not that I'd ever spend 6 hours. Well, actually, I used to do that back in the day. Not an impossibility. And then we learned how the brain works and what was probably best for, I guess, what they call best practices. Okay, so today we're going to focus on the structure of the beat that we were building in the last 2 episodes. We're going to be focusing on how it evolves or develops over time. And in order to do that, I'm using a framework that's basically the main framework of EDM. It basically operates using something called hypermeters. And what are hypermeters? I'm trying to get this bar to do what I want it to do. It's being very difficult with me. There you go. What are hypermeters? Hypermeters are groups of bars. So, by the way, if you don't know what bars are, then let me know in the comments. It means we need to have some music theory stuff, just so that everyone's on the same page. And yeah, it'd be very cool to introduce you to the world of beats, bars, time signatures, meters, etc. But in any case, bars are hypermeters are groups of bars. Generally the smallest hypermeter is an 8-bar hypermeter. For whatever reason, I think 4 is too small. But the main hypermeter you have in EDM is 16-bar hypermeters. And very often at the halfway point, so if you have an 8-bar hypermeter, 4 bars. If you have a 16-bar hypermeter, 8 bars, there's some kind of significant change that basically progresses the track, builds it up, change a section from verse to chorus if it's a sung EDM track where the breakdowns happen. It's all structured according to these things called hypermeters. I guess they vary as well in normal pop music. There's 4-bar hypermeters. I'm just, I guess, rattling off about research that I have done. Who would know? Who knew that you could research EDM? Well, in this day and age, you certainly can. Anyway, that's our 4-bar loop from last time, episodes 1 and 2. The chords in the E piano, the Starry Night in the acoustic piano, and our shaker and woodblock. So what we're going to do now is that I want to create an overall structure that evolves around the development of this material. And as we go along, I don't know if this will be this episode or the next. It might be this one actually. We're going to start adding some string elements that would convert either into strings in Logic or potentially, perhaps a little bit more excitingly, into a pad element or pad elements. So yeah, let's get to it. In order to make this happen, I need to talk a little bit. I already spoke about hypermeters. So basically the first 2 hypermeters, whether it's the first 32 bars or the first 16 bars, depending on how long the hypermeter is, are basically like just setting the scene. And normally in the beginning you do have a kind of 8-bar swing, 16-bar hypermeter. What do you mean? Like the first 16 bars are 8 bars of the introductory material, and then another 8 bars of further materials. Just by the way, apologies if there's other sounds that you're hearing. I'm in a place where there's, I think, works happening somewhere. But the point is, let's jump straight into it. I want to start this off with just the shakers. Right? I worked so hard to make them interesting that you're going to hear them in isolation. Okay. So as I mentioned last time, I like to just skip the first bar because it's connected with so many other fundamental things related to the main score, and working from the second bar keeps things a bit more flexible. Keeps things a bit more flexible, and that's fine. Anyway, okay, cool. I'm going to change the bar line type here. Actually, this is not standard notation, it just helps me visualize things differently. So we're going to start the whole beat like this. Alright, cool. Because we're developing, we can even be a little bit interesting. What do you mean by that? Well, this is what I mean. Like, we're just going to randomly start from, say, here. That's the whole bar to the good. Just to break the monotony, so that we don't have the same thing going over and over again. And this one will be, so that's an 8 bar hypermeter there. So and already then I had a kick drum idea. I couldn't help myself, I just have to. Let's put a bass drum as opposed to a drum set. But you know what? I feel like let's just put a set in there so that we don't have to go back and forth all the time. I know it says dance there, but I don't really want to use that. Well, let's see. Right at the top. Okay, we're definitely, out of curiosity. So let's just drop that. It's massively loud. Still quite loud. There you go. Out of curiosity. And then if I do, what is that called again? Is it 2? Is it, come on, 2? Is it 2? Okay, 1, right? Sibelius has loaded a proper dance drum set. Let's go with the normal standard pop one. You kind of need to add it to the score. Yeah, damn wit. Let's hear the sounds. I like that. Repeat that. And let's add some dynamics for accentuation. Here we're going to do that. Which means anyway, let's see that again. Bam, bam. So, so when you're writing in dynamics on the score, for those of you who don't know, you don't have to declare the volume of each one. You just assume that the volume you saw before persists until you change it. Okay. So in South Africa, there's this thing, for those of you who are not South African, there's a form of dance music. It's pretty new. Basically, it was invented last year. I think it was a collaboration between, I forgot all of them. I know Kent was involved. To the other artists, I'm really sorry. But one of the guys I know was a member of Black Motion. Sometimes I'm so terrible. But the point is, it's called three-step. Basically, it means three of the beats in a 4/4 bar are accentuated with a kick, and one of them, either the first or the last, is not, and then it creates this 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. The chord structures tend to be more of that kind of like, it's like those progressions that you find in movies, sort of like building up the vibe and like very epic kind of vibe to the chord progressions. And I think it's normally 3 chord progressions as opposed to 4. Anyway, enough about 3-step. I'm mentioning that because this is kind of influenced by that, in the sense that there's a bit of 2-step in here. But as you know, I'm an experimentalist. This is a lab, and we're trying things out here. That's why we've got such weird patterns. We don't want to be a specific kind of piano or EDM. We're drawing from everything. And also another thing can you see how even in the kick drum, it just, creating what I call depth. It is depth. Why? Because normally you just hold the kick drum, same volume, whole track. Now it's like, no, let's have the kick drum do something interesting. Right? It's still all quarter notes, but like, little gaps here and there. A little bit of a 2-step pattern. But then times when it's got 3-step. But then also from soft to loud. And you can tell a story just by switching it from soft to loud. P for piano being soft. MF meaning mezzo forte, meaning medium loud. So I don't want it to be too loud. I just want it to be medium loud. I would actually prefer this kick pattern to come in the second 8 bars, because as I said, I want you to listen to the shaker. Evil composer wants you to listen to the shaker. And even then, I'm going to push it yet further out. So this is the first 16 bar. Should we? Let's do this. Let's dash this one too. But this one will undash. Dotted is going to be too strange. Too strange. Or maybe we make this one thick. Yeah. Just so that I see what's going on. So the double lines will always come after 16 bars, and if necessary, because we've split it up into fours with a dash, or into 8, sorry, I'll use a thick one, just so, again, just so we have a sense of geography. If we were to present this to, I don't know, some sort of an ensemble that will play it, then we will have to remove all these interesting things and make it more reader friendly. Okay, so I don't want you to listen to that for another 16 bars because that's a bit excessive, but our friend here, the woodblock, I feel needs to come in at this point exactly. So I think that works well. So let's see this. So we've got two options. I'm going to trial them both, which is enter chords with the kicks. So let's just play the last 4 beats, full bars of this last one. Maybe the kick isn't meant to come in now. Let's trial this here quickly. the kick definitely needs to enter after the chords. Let's listen to the beginning to find out if this is the pattern, or this should be 8 bars and then kick next 8 bars, and then that's our second hypermeter. By the way, this is bare bones, as you can see. What I mean by that is, already I have in my mind transition points like reverse cymbals, maybe percussive elements, whatever else have you, rising to this point, blah, blah, blah. This is very basic and bare bones. And I guess I'm saying that because this is the beauty of it. Like I said, like, you know, getting into coding recently, I have found that I mean, getting into coding, I did computer science at high school, and seeing how AI, so getting into AI and how, you know, automations and stuff work recently, and seeing how that, you know, is more like making beats, like using a DAW with preset stuff, and not necessarily thinking about what the chords are or whatever else have you, mostly working with loops. Or if you hoy a melody, it's mostly by ear, or maybe you can play. But to actually have it like theoretically, intellectually in mind, and structuring it on paper, in this case on score software, it's like a different world, because then when you do transfer, then you can see it come alive in a way that is, how can I say, it's a little bit more fulfilling, but also it's like when you jump into the DAW, you have direction sometimes, and it's not like the opposite's bad. It's just like this is cool. There's a new way of doing it. Anyway, let's listen. Maybe like a wind sound in the background. What I want to investigate, I want to compare, that sounded good by the way, but let's just compare that with this. I call this the hyper listen, re-listen method. Like you're listening and re-listening all the time, listening and re-listening all the time. And I need to stop, and I need to stop, and I need to stop. Listening and re-listening. If you can develop that as a superpower as a composer, that is massive. Again. Especially these intro parts where the timing of things when they enter just says a lot about what's coming next, that you really need these to be on point. How rude. I have to use my watch next time. Anyway, our 25 minutes is up, but Let's just hear that again from here. I like that. I think that works. And we have 4 8-bar hypermeters or 2 16-bar hypermeters, which is more or less what we're aiming for. Probably 2 more 16-bar hypermeters, and then our initial build is in, and then we're at the kind of like main section of this beat. Anyway, let's call it there for episode 3. Episode 4, yeah. Pressure cooker beat making. Da, 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 da.